What is going on, everyone? Tim from Tierfon Orbital. So today I would like to talk a little bit about an install commission that I completed on a Project M from Saberz. Saberz with a Z. So I had not heard much about this company or this hilt prior to doing this install. This particular customer for this install is a repeat customer, and he is a accuracy guy. He really likes accurate hilts, and unbeknownst to me, I did not know that this was a very, very accurate representation of Maul's hilt from the Phantom Menace. And I actually, so when I first opened up the box of this hilt, I noticed that there were some like minor like scuff marks on the hilt, and my first thought was to like let the customer know, like, hey, just like I just want to make sure you know that there's some minor, like there's some markings on this that I want to make sure you're aware of this. And he was like, yes, that's by design, like that's actually, you know, that's from the movie prop, that's how they're supposed to look. So I never really been a big fan of Maul's hilt, to be completely like frank, right? However, I actually really, really appreciate the amount of engineering and design work that went into this particular hilt. I also really love the form factor of this particular Maul hilt. Like, so Maul's hilt, usually I'm used to seeing something that is massive, like really, really big. This one, it just feels, it just feels right to me. It just feels like, it feels a lot better in hand, right? But yeah, everything down to the switches, the machining is really, really well done. I actually went onto Saberz website and they broke down everything that went into the designing of this hilt. I mean, it is a really, really well made hilt, a well thought out hilt, right? So I want to talk about a lot of that. I also want to talk about the chassis solution that I did for this one, because like most staffs, right, doing a chassis for them is a little bit difficult, right? Because you got to figure out sound venting, and you've got to figure out how to like insert this chassis and all that. So I do want to talk a little bit about that. So we're going to come into Fusion, and then obviously we'll come up top and we will do a demo, right? So let's come into Fusion. Okay, so here is the chassis that I designed for this hilt, right? So there are going to be two of these. Obviously, this is a staff hilt, so there's one chassis in each end of the hilt. Let's start at the bottom. So I was able to fit a 24 millimeter speaker from Smuggler's Outpost in this, okay? I did not bother with any greebly work on the bottom here, because this actually slides into the coupler for the staff. Okay, there are two little indentations in this, or like nubbins, right? This not only tells you where to insert the chassis in the coupler, but it also helps secure it into the coupler itself. On the outside of the hilt, there are two knurled like thumb screw greeblies. They will also help to secure that chassis in place, and that is also how you secure the hilts to the coupler itself, right? We'll go over that in a little bit more detail when we come up top, right? So I did do some greebly work along each side of the chassis. This entire greebly panel was done in resin and then attached to the side of the chassis itself. The entire main body of the chassis was done in PETG carbon fiber, okay? On this side, we have our onboard tactile switches. So I did rectangular red button tactile switches on here. I also put some rectangular red LEDs just for some extra like accent. Okay. Making our way up. So obviously we have our battery tray here. Proffie board sits around back. This is a Proffie V3 build. Proffie does kind of slide up underneath this lip. I actually am going to include a 90-degree USB connector. So to the customer, I will be including that in the box. So you won't have to like be popping up your Proffie board every time you want to like upload your config. Because I do know that you're a Proffie guy and you're going to want to edit your config a lot. So I'm going to include that in the box, right? Making our way up. So I did add a 2020 neopixel strip for some extra animation up top here. And the way I did that was I just brought my leads up through here, wired up that 2020 neopixel strip, just glued it to this nipple up here. I did add a mylar strip underneath this vent here, and then this entire section just slides up or slides into that nipple, and just kind of I glued it in place, if that makes sense. So this entire thing kind of slides up into here. And our lit PCB emitter is up top. And that's it. Really, really happy with how this one came out. So, like I said, doing chassis for staffs is not always easy. But again, like the way that Saberz engineered the internals of this staff and the coupler, I was really, really happy and surprised that I was able to figure out a solution for both chassis, right? So let's come up top. All right. So here it is. Project M from Saberz. Right. So obviously I have this separated. Here is the coupler for the staff. Let's talk about the chassis first. Both chassis are exactly the same. So I'm just going to talk about one. Both of them work the same way. Okay. So I did my usual pass of pewter, rub and buff on both chassis. I did paint some of those accents. Here is our proffie board. Kill switch is up top here. To put your battery in, spring side is your negative, that is towards the speaker. Take the flat part of your battery, rest it in that battery tray, hit your kill switch.
I have been waiting.
So there are those two rectangular LEDs, and then of course that accent strip up top. Okay. Now let's put the battery in both of them.
I know what I have to do.
I want to get it to the same font on both.
Kenobi. That's a myth. The negotiate justice. Smooth. Birds. Kenobi.
Okay. Okay. All right. So now notice I pointed out those nubbins that were on the bottom of the chassis. Like, so here they are down here, right? So you will see those same kidney shaped or oval shaped holes on the coupler. Okay. So you want to insert your chassis so those holes line up with the coupler, and it'll kind of find its home if you put it in the right way. Put both chassis in, okay?
I can see him in my mind's eye.
So I do want to talk about the hilt itself as well, right? Really, really well-made hilt. These switches are incredibly complex switches. Actually, now that I'm talking about this, yeah. So these are incredibly complex switches. You can unthread the switches. I don't recommend it, but if you're noticing that you're depressing these switches and they are not hitting the red buttons on the chassis itself, you can kind of tweak these. So you'd unscrew the entire housing. Okay. And there is a flathead screw, like a flathead underneath this. And you can kind of tweak that and unthread it or thread it in place just to kind of raise and lower that plunger. But I've noticed that they are actually just perfect. But yeah, these switches are actually, I mean, they're really, really well designed, really well engineered. Even the greeblies, I mean, everything on this hilt is really, really fantastically well made. Really nicely machined. Just a great hilt. Okay, so to put your chassis in place, you've got your chassis in the coupler. You can back these two greeblies out. I've been taking them out all of the way. You do have O-rings on these, so keep that in mind. I take them out all the way. line up those two oval shaped holes. They're in line with your switches. You want to kind of look down in these holes and just make sure those two oval shaped holes on the coupler are in line. Okay. Make sure I'm putting these in the right order. Then you can put your greeblies in place and tighten those down. So another really cool feature, like somebody put a lot of thought into designing this hilt. So these greeblies have a very, very small pin at the end of them. And they protrude through the coupler into the chassis. So they also help to secure that chassis in place. Just a really well-designed hilt, right? So we've got that one in. I'm going to take these off. I think I put those on backwards, but that's okay. My friend Sam's going to yell at me, the accuracy guy. I've put them in backwards. All right. So you put that in, line up your holes, make sure everything's lined up correctly. Tighten your two knurled screw. Yeah, don't lose your O-rings. I mean, you don't necessarily need them, but it is nice to have so you don't over crank stuff, right? Okay, and you're ready to go. So to my complete and utter surprise, this actually sounds very decent. So you've got two speakers pointing at one another. I cannot see any sound venting here, but there may be some very, very discreet sound venting in between this O-ring here, or this greebly. But it sounds really decent. All right, let's come down to the bottom. All right, so here we go. So one thing I want to say too, you really want to make sure that you're cranking down these thumb screws that hold that coupler in place, or hold the hilts attached to the coupler, because they will separate, and you don't want that to happen when you're swinging this thing around. So I'm going to put a blade. I'm just going to quickly stick a blade in each end, just so we can see that it's working. Obviously, I'm not going to stick a blade in both ends. Actually, I might be able to, because this is a 7/8 inch blade holder, so I might be able to with a demo blade. Hold on, stand by. Yeah, I think we can do this with two short 7/8 inch demo blades. So to get to your set screw, or your, blade retention screw, you want to unthread this steel, but there's a steel ring up top here. Underneath that is your retention screw for your blade. Unthread that. You want to stick your blade in. Oops. Tighten your set screw. I guess I should have left that in place, but yeah. Tighten your set screw, then you can put that ring back in place, and then repeat on the other side. All right.
In my mind's eye.
All right, let's see if we can get them both to activate. Here we go. There we go. Well, I didn't tighten that one down enough. Let's see what else we've put on here. I'm surprised I haven't hit my fan yet, right? One more. It is a lot of fun to swing around. So this maul, I mean, to me, the form factor is a lot more approachable than the ones that I'm used to seeing. The ones that I'm used to seeing just are super thick, really, really big, unwieldy. This is just a great, great maul specimen, right? And it was a lot of fun to design the chassis for, right? So anyhow, that was the long-winded walkthrough video on my Project M install. So anyhow, to the customer, thank you very much for trusting me with your install. If anyone has any questions about this particular hilt or anything really, please do not be a stranger. And with that being said, may the force be with you always. Have a good one, everybody.